unfiltered and unapologetic.
Welcome to another episode of the Best Damn Wrestling Podcast with your favorite podcasting hosts, Keithan, Jacory, and Sherrod. One more time. What's going on, y'all?
What's up, man?
Yo, what's going on, man?
Oh, shoot, not too much, not too much. Hey man, we got a nice little show going today. We on the road to 1,000 subscribers. So I throw that out first things first, but we appreciate all the support we've gotten lately. We've had a lot of people come on board and join the bandwagon, the road to wrestling Valhalla, and we want to keep the momentum going. So if you're listening to this, which we hope you do, we want you to like, subscribe, and follow and hit that notification bell so that we can keep this momentum going. But without further ado, let's jump right in. What we're covering today is the Death of WCW documentary on Vice. If you haven't seen it, we highly recommend that you check it out. What did y'all think?
I thought it was pretty good. I learned some things that I didn't learn before.
Right. Yeah.
That I
No.
didn't think
Definitely.
they covered in the rise and fall of WCW.
I
Do
think
you?
it was the same shit it's been. I mean, you saw the same thing in the Monday Night Wars that they had on WWE Network. It was all the same stuff, even in the Rise and Fall. If you put both of those Monday Night Wars and the Rise and Fall together, you would have got this whole documentary that they put out.
I don't know, man. I think I'm like Keith, and I think we found out a lot of stuff we didn't know, and it's still trending. Did you? I don't know if you saw it. Me and Keith talked about it earlier this week, but the last couple days, the Booker T response to that documentary.
No, I didn't. What did he say?
Oh man, we were talking about it. What like yesterday? He on
Yeah,
his
yeah.
radio show. He was pretty pissed off about the whole Bash at the Beach incident in 2000 and how Hogan kind of creative controlled him or tried to at least out of being world champion, and how Bischoff was going along with it, and he made the comment that he'll never record anything for Vice ever again. Like he was pretty heated about the whole thing. I don't know exactly the nuances behind him being upset. I don't know if it was just how he found out certain things while they were recording that he did not know, or if it's just like at this point, like he just saying what he feels or what he has felt for 20 something years because there's no skin in the game. I mean, it's out there now.
Well, apparently he didn't know the extent of the whole Hogan and Bischoff dynamic. Like he didn't know that Hogan and Bischoff weren't on board with Vince Russo's decision to put the title on them. That they would that
Wait a minute, bro. I
hmm?
don't understand how he didn't know. Did he not see all the other WCW documentaries? That was one of the main things in those documentaries. That
Yeah,
Negro
but
knew. He knew.
nah, but a lot of stuff I think came out, and we'll dive into it. We kind of veering off a little bit. We'll get further into it, but a lot of stuff came out. I think that the general public may have had, they may have speculated on or suspected, but to hear people saying it just out loud that were there behind the scenes, I think kind of put a big confirmation on everything, so to speak. That's why I'm kind of with Keaton on this. I learned a lot we didn't know. But I mean, let's just jump in. We'll kind of just do an autopsy of this thing and see what we think, and then at the end we'll ask the all important question. But what were some of the things that stuck out to y'all? I mean, me personally, I think one of the biggest hit points. We're not gonna go into the whole Eric Bischoff takes over. They start the Monday Night Wars. He revamps Nitro, the 7 o'clock. Well, everybody's heard that to death. To your point, Jacory. But I mean, one of the biggest things that stuck out to me early on was um the Sting thing. That I'm still pissed off about that, and that was 20 something years ago. That was fucking stupid.
They made a lot of just straight up decisions that didn't make sense at the time that really wasn't in the best interest for the company. It was just I don't know. One way they described it was the inmates running the asylum, and that was like definitely an example of that.
But we knew that. But to get to the point, I mean, how stupid can you be to bill somebody for a year? You get to the payoff, and then his excuse was, Hogan said to him, "Hey, I just don't think tonight's a good night." What the fuck does that even mean?
He didn't want to lose it that night. I mean, he had creative control.
I mean, to me, Hogan was pretty much the biggest problem in WCW.
So,
Next to that,
hold on. Again, we'll get into this more, but is that your main culprit?
no, I would say multiple people killed WCW, but he's not the only one. He definitely had a part, huge part in it.
The early on, that was like checkbox number one for me. Is like the Sting thing. We always kind of, I think people wondered why Sting was in 99. I think it was. Sting was a big thing that entire year. He was the only person that could face down the NWO. I watched the segments that Sting had with them where he's coming out of the rafters. He had the fake Sting thing going on. He was the only person that they were afraid of. Like they spent a year building this dude into somebody that could finally take down Hogan. And then you get
Mm-hmm.
the Starcade, and it's like, what the hell? Like, and it's like they never did anything with it after that.
Hogan didn't want him to. Hogan wanted the focus to go back on him.
Yeah.
So,
That was the problem.
okay, so I mean, can we all agree that while Bischoff might have had a genius idea and was able to kind of put Vince on the ropes, he pandered a lot more to Hogan, Nash, Hall, maybe Hogan more than Nash and Hall, but there was a lot more pandering than management going on.
Absolutely,
Well,
absolutely.
what happened to me is I feel he put himself in a position where he had no choice. He gave a lot of them fools creative control. I know we know he gave Hogan creative. I think he gave Kevin creative. Did he
Hmm.
not? So a lot of those guys, it wasn't really much he can do.
There was a comment made that a lot of the stars, the upper echelon stars, had creative control, and that's just that's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But that was one of the first things that stuck out. I mean, the other thing for me was the how badly the Turner execs and Turner Broadcasting or whatever they didn't even want them on television. Had it not been for Ted Turner, there wouldn't have been a WCW. And I mean, you got Brad Siegel and a couple of other people were in this documentary. But I mean, for them to tell you, hey, you heard this a lot. Didn't like wrestling, didn't want anything to do with it. Didn't like wrestling, didn't want anything to do with it. I don't think people really, you heard about it from Eric Bischoff's perspective on how much they had pushback from Turner Broadcasting and AOL Time Warner or whatever after the merger, but to hear people that were actually making decisions saying, yeah, a lot of these people didn't want it there. They didn't want anything to do with it. Then there was the whole thing about, speculation on them taking other things and inserting into the wrestling budget to make it look like they took a loss. Like I don't think WWF has ever had to deal with nothing like that before. I know they haven't. USA is always that was one of their better shows. And while they pushed the envelope during the Attitude Era, there was never a time where it was like, to my knowledge, hey, no, we don't want this on our TV show anymore. We sure don't want it in prime time. That was a big thing.
Yeah.
I I really feel like they really didn't um come into play until towards the end when WCW was already suffering from the inmates running the asylum type of thing and the bad booking decisions and the bad creative. They were already kind of on the down slope. I feel like Time Warner executives finally had a reason to throw them off or to
Yeah, cause
conspire
yeah,
against them.
yeah, 'cause they never wanted them at the beginning, like when they
Right.
were just regular old WCW before Eric Bischoff. They didn't want them then. It was Eric that made them even consider keeping WCW, but by raising the ratings and all this other good stuff.
Hmm.
And that was
I,
the only thing. But before they had Eric, they didn't want WCW, and after they had Eric, they didn't want WCW.
I don't think there was ever a time Ted Turner would have let them taking wrestling off of Turner Broadcasting though. That was always a thing in this documentary. The reason they subsisted as long as they did, including in the early '90s when they were fucking awful, was Ted Turner liked wrestling. That was always a thing. I mean, you can go back to I think in Rise and Fall of WCW, one of the things they mentioned or whatever, if I'm not mistaken, was that he was a huge fan of Ric Flair and people some of the guys like that, the older people that were in WCW, and there was no way he was just gonna give that up at the time. I think that's why it subsisted as long as it did. Now they did go through a lot of people, Kip Fry and Jim Hurd, and before you got to Eric Bischoff. But even with all of that, and as bad as it was, that show was still on Turner Television.
Yeah, well, during the 83 weeks, they did something that was very important to pretty much, keep the Turner executives off their back. They became undeniable. When you beating the top wrestling program in the nation, you're pretty much a mainstay at that point. Like to take you off the air would be redundant, and they just were undeniable until they pretty much wasn't.
I mean, yeah, that. But even then, you know, there was pushback on, hey, why are we giving a primetime slot to a wrestling show? Even then,
Right.
it was almost like it was an afterthought.
Hmm.
Yeah. But
I,
another thing, that beginning WCW was an afterthought, regardless of how much Turner liked it or whatever the case may have been. If you seen any of that older stuff when they had like Glacier and all that shit, that
Hmm.
shit was trash. I ain't even
First of
gonna
all,
hold
I
you. That
thought
shit was
that was kind of
trash.
cool when I first seen it. I was like 8, 9 years old, so I really
That's
kind
because
of
you
liked it
trash.
at first. But looking,
Oh,
uh, see, this that bullshit, man. Now, see, okay, all right. What
Hmm.
I'm trying to say is, looking back on it now, you know, 20 some odd years later, I actually went back and watched it like several months ago before this is ever a thing. I don't remember why I watched it. I think I heard it on somebody's, segment or something. But I went back and looked at that shit then. I was like, they spent but that was always their thing. They spent a lot of money on doing stupid shit. Like, I don't know if y'all remember the Oklahoma character that they did or whatever. That
oh
shit was
yeah,
fucking stupid. The
the demon.
Mike Awesome, they turned him. I thought that shit was cool 20 some years ago, but then looking back on it now, yeah, that was fucking stupid. The Mike Awesome thing. I mean, and that's the other thing. They had so much talent that they could have done so many things with, but it seemed like the only thing that they kept doing was doing the NWO thing. Mike Awesome was over, and they turned him into a '70s gimmick, and he just wasn't. Because ECW Mike Awesome was something to see.
I think
Yeah,
that
he
was the
was. Yeah, he
problem.
was lit. Yeah, he was lit in
He
ECW. I ain't gonna
was.
hold you.
He was. I think that was a problem because he came from ECW, and you know how they felt about ECW guys.
But one thing I remember about WCW during that time, outside of the NWO, like two big names that I used to like watching was remember that boy Norman Smiley?
Yeah, I
The
definitely remember
Norman
hardcore
Norman
champion?
Smiley.
Norman Smiley was litty to titty. Hey, and that boy Disco, hey, them boys was nasty.
You sound fucking stupid.
I
Let me
loved
see
Ernest the
see
Cat
that boy.
Miller.
Yeah.
You sound crazy as hell too.
What? Yo, the cat? Yo, man.
Yeah,
Probably ask
Don't
yeah.
Khabib
don't don't diss
for
the
his
cat.
Hey,
Don't
opinion.
disrespect the cat.
hey, Ernest was
I got
that
a kick
guy.
out
You
of it.
feel me?
Absolutely.
Yeah, y'all sound
They had
silly as
some really
fuck.
good
Look,
characters. Like, what was that little boy band they had that Shane Helms was in?
Oh, that 3 count?
3 count.
Yeah, bro, that was bro. They was doing some stuff. A
Those were
lot of people
all
thought it was
but
corny, but it was
see,
it was
those were all
entertaining.
cruiserweights. Those like 3 count was cruiserweights. Filthy Animals was a nice group. Most of them were
They were.
cruiserweights. Hooven, to Guerrero, Billy Kidman, Rey Mysterio Jr. Or what? Speaking of that, Keaton did do a video that's on our channel on a lot of the WCW cruiserweights ended up being like that division is one of the most underrated divisions and times in wrestling history. You know how many Hall of Famers came out of that division? Rey
Mm,
Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Jericho, Dean Malenko. To me, Juventud in WCW was a very good fucking wrestler. I don't care what nobody
yeah.
fucking say. He was
They
very
were.
Hey, and look,
psychosis.
and plus a man who shall not be named, Chris
Mm-hmm.
Benoit.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I never looked at him as a fucking cruiserweight though.
But they did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
man,
think
in WCW, he was pretty tiny, bro. He was tiny. It wasn't until he got into WWE and got on all them steroids that he got kind of plump.
they tried to put
Exactly.
Booker T in the cruiserweight category at one point in time, but that shit went going. Oh,
They tried to along with Jericho.
but yeah, no, I mean that was an underrated division. They again, that's a lot of that also was touched on in that show. A lot of the reason that those guys were leaving is because they couldn't get past being cruiserweight or mid card wrestlers. You had all of these bigger name guys holding up the spots. They didn't want to put anybody else. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that was most of their problem, to be honest with you. And that was a big topic of conversation because it covered, you know, and this was bullshit. But they said that when the Radicals came to WWE, they knew that was when it was over. But how the fuck is that? Because most of the guys that were saying in that documentary were the reason those guys left. That was fucking stupid.
No, man, it's because Eric was pushing that cruiserweight division. The cruiserweight division and the NWO is what made the ratings so high.
They over
It wasn't until
they
Russo got there and cut the cruiserweight division that it was just like, man, fuck this, I'm gonna go over to WWE.
they
Yeah.
overcooked the fucking NWO though. I mean, you started getting
Yeah.
NWO red black. You got to look. You got the LWO. You got the goddamn. Yeah, when they started putting like Dusty Rhodes and shit in NWO and stuff like that. Sting spent the whole year fighting the NWO and then he gets an NWO. That I was like,
That was
yeah,
so
okay,
counterproductive.
y'all fucking around. The NWO really kind of is part of it to me too, as far as the depth is concerned. You NWO 2000. You just NWO the WCW to death. You had no other storylines, nothing else going on, nothing. That is just NWO or bust. That's all you had. That's all you had.
Hey, Black
And
and Red Sting was lit though.
He was.
black and red NWO to me was lit, but after a while, it just becomes overcooked. You can only work an angle so long. I feel like the bloodline is kind of teetering on the verge of doing this. At some point, you got to put a faction to bed.
I don't know with what they're doing with the bloodline. It seemed like they're prepping for like some kind of civil war and war games or
But they
something.
did that in the NWO.
Yeah, but not on this scale right here. Yeah.
You,
Well,
you,
see,
you
the NWO was just too. It was overcooked. When you start putting a whole bunch of other people in it, you fucked it up. They should have kept it to where they had the Giant and Scott Steiner in there. They were pretty legitimate,
Yeah,
members. They added something to the group. When you
yeah,
start putting other people, it's pointless at that
yeah.
point.
I think about the time they put 90% of the freaking roster into the NWO. It's like,
Yeah,
who are you gonna compete
yeah,
against?
just handed out shirt. Virgil, goddamn.
yeah.
I'm like, dude, what the hell, man? Macho Man was in the NWO after Hogan betrayed him, and Jeff Jarrett was in the NWO. Hell, pretty much everybody was in the damn thing.
Everybody, yeah. Every main champion got in the NWO. Bret Hart was in it too, right?
Yeah, he eventually got in there, which was crazy as hell. I mean,
Was
what
he?
about him? Yeah, he was in there for a second. But
Yeah.
uh, nobody in that episode or nobody in that documentary to me seemed more bitter or more vitriolic or whatever, if to so to speak, to me than Bret Hart was just on there talking about everybody and everything. He thought everything was stupid and everybody was fucking stupid too.
Bret Hart
And
always like that though, bro. He always complaining with his big head ass.
I mean, the dude's a top 10 wrestler of all
To
time now.
who?
So I
To
mean,
who?
oh, don't do this. Don't do this.
Oh, we're going back
Don't
to
To
do
the
this.
last episode.
to a certain
Don't
few,
don't
but
don't.
he was a boring wrestler to me. I'd
You
put Owen over him, bro. He was a boring wrestler to me. Yeah, he was technical, he was good, but his shit was boring. He was boring on the mic, in the ring.
so you don't think Bret Hart's a top 10 wrestler of all time?
I do not.
Bret Hart in my top five, or top
I
10.
know
Yeah.
you lying.
No,
Nah,
man, look,
he in
Bret
mine
Hart, one
too.
of my favorites, man. Now, I agree with
No.
you. Owen is underrated. He was a beast. He was more athletic
He
than
was ahead
Bret.
of his time.
If he wouldn't have passed away, yeah, he would have been a problem. But I can't deny what Bret did.
I don't even remember what Brett did.
WrestleMania, was it WrestleMania 12? The submission match with Stone Cold that put him on the map.
WrestleMania 13, yeah.
Oh, WrestleMania 13. You're right. WrestleMania 13. That's a match. The matches he had with Shawn Michaels, those were classics.
Yeah,
I,
but you don't never
I mean,
remember Brett in those. I remember Shawn Michaels in that match. I remember Stone Cold in that match. I don't remember nothing about no damn Bret Hart. That's why he complaining so much, because don't nobody remember his ass. That should have been me.
nah,
Sound like Dolph
I think
Ziggler.
I think Bret Hart got say it has sour grapes for a lot of different reasons, but uh, this is skipping ahead a little bit, but I mean there ain't no love lost between him and Goldberg, and this documentary made me look at Goldberg in a different light. I love me some Goldberg, but I had no idea up until now that he didn't really know what the fuck he was doing. He was hurting people and himself. That shit stuck out big time.
Yeah, but that info been came out though, man. Yeah, he been hurting people. Yeah.
I always looked at Goldberg as just this hyper intense, just he was just on another level. But now
He was
knowing
Ryback
like
before Ryback.
right, yeah, and that's that he came out looking bad, and some of it he almost had like at least from the documentary's perspective, he almost had a nonchalantness about the situation, like the whole. Did y'all see that clip about the kick that pretty much ended Bret Hart's career? He
Yeah,
was like, "I told him
Yeah.
it was coming, and you need to protect yourself." What?
I feel like
Yeah.
he's just nonchalant now because he's tired of apologizing about it. But at the
Yeah.
same time, there's no reason you should ever kick someone that fucking hard during a match.
Well,
But
the spear thing or whatever. I mean, like I know I don't really give a fuck what the hell Vince Russo has to say about anything. We'll get into that in a little bit, but you know, like I didn't realize he was spearing people on purpose. Like he's tackling your ass. That's a big dude.
yeah, they got this dude off the football field though. I shouldn't. We should
Straight
have
off
known
the
that was gonna
football
happen.
field. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
No
and, and
training, no nothing. Because back then they didn't have like a training, nothing. They just
well,
brought
they
him
had
in
the
and it was like,
power
go hit
plant.
people.
No, he was at the power plant for a second, but they didn't. They kind of just pushed him out there. It was like, no, we need to get this dude on TV. And I think his character and his persona and how they set him up, that's what got him over. And nobody really cared about his work because what the fuck are you gonna critique in 45 seconds to a minute? The one
That's
time
true.
anybody started talking about his work was that match against William Regal.
Where
And
William Regal
that
stretched his
came
ass.
that came
That
up in
was
the
a good match.
documentary. That
It
came up in the
was
documentary too, and he was pretty pissed off. He's still sensitive about that shit, but that's when you started saying, "Well, this dude really don't really understand what he's doing," and that kind of said that kind of segued into the whole Nash breaking the undefeated streak. That was something else we really never got insight on. Like
hmm
he made the decision. Goldberg shouldn't be champion because he don't know what he's doing. I'm the booker. We're taking the belt off of him. I still think that's one of the most fucked up things anybody's ever done as far as like wrestling booking is concerned. That was a bad move. But his excuse and
No,
reason for, man, no, man.
no.
Goldberg, if Goldberg was gonna lose to anybody, it should have been clean and it should have been done in a way that made okay, like it it was done right. It was believable. It was somebody that Kevin Nash beat him clean would have been believable.
No, it
Beat
wouldn't
him
I
have,
clean.
don't
man,
know
because
over
because
that
because the
point.
dude was supposed to be unstoppable. They did it in a way to where it still made him look good. Like they had to cheat to beat him, so it still
But
makes
how
him
many
look
people on
unstoppable.
that? How many people on that roster would have been able to just what you have said? Okay, like yes, this guy can beat Goldberg clean. Like
Probably
how
just the
many?
Giant. That's the only person I would have believed that could have beat him.
Hell, nah, because he picked him up over his damn head.
Yeah, he did. I
He
lost my
did do
mind
that.
when
He
that
did
happened.
do that. But he the only one that could put up a fight. Like you would have to be a behemoth to put
Kevin
Goldberg
Nash was
down
like
during that time.
7 foot, two hundred and
Oh
ninety
yeah,
eighty
Kevin
ninety.
Nash. Yeah, 7 foot, 328 pounds, something like that. Yeah, oh, definitely. But I mean, I do under now that I
So we
heard
don't
his
think this
reason,
was a bad booking decision.
I
No,
used to think it
I
was a
think
bad
it was a
booking
great
decision.
man. You gotta make a guy who's undefeated, unbeatable. You got to make it look like the only way you can beat this guy is to cheat.
Yeah, I feel like he did a good job of protecting Goldberg
Yeah.
in a sense because
So
he
you
didn't
think he
really.
got vindication
He,
in this documentary for his decision?
yeah, with me at least, he got vindication because I was mad at him for years for making that decision. But then when I hear him say like Goldberg didn't know what he's doing, and then Goldberg says like, "Yo, I didn't know what I was doing a lot of the time, or any of the time."
That was one of the more shocking things I heard.
Yeah,
Like that whole Scott Hall spot, and he said Scott Hall was like, "Dude, what the hell are you doing?" He's like, "I don't know." My
exactly.
jaw dropped. I'm like, "Dude, all them years you really didn't know." You're dangerous and you getting over, and I like man Goldberg in during that time period. That was like my second, third best, my second or third favorite wrestler. It was Rock Stone Cold Goldberg, somewhere in that particular order, depending on what was going on. You know,
Yeah, you get a lot of heat for hurting people in the ring and not knowing what you're doing. And one thing that people back then, even now in the wrestling industry, they don't want anybody to have the top title in the company if you have a lot of heat. And I have a feeling that Goldberg had a lot of heat around that time.
man, but he didn't give a fuck. He was like, "Well, I got paid. Well, I told you the kick was coming." Like everything about him was just like, "Oh well, I was a star." Like, oh well. That shit was
Yeah,
shocking. It changed my whole outlook on Goldberg. That documentary made him look horrible.
Bro, Goldberg been like that. You ain't seen none of his interviews, like his outside, like the inside the rope interviews or any of that. He been talking like that. He do not care that he hurt nobody. He said you should have moved.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
exactly. Like, you should know how to protect yourself. Why I gotta protect myself when you the one
When you
who?
supposed to be doing that for
Exactly.
me, that's exactly we protect
But
each
then
other.
again, with Bret Hart being as good as he is, quote, y'all claim he's so good. Why didn't he put his hands up?
Because he didn't know it was coming.
He said he wasn't quite sure what was going on. He mentioned that he was like, I heard him say, "Watch the kick," but he didn't do a very good job of saying when, what, how. Like, I
Yeah,
don't even
what
know if that
kick?
was a spot. Yeah, he was like, "What kick?" I don't
Could have
even know
been
if that
kick to
was
the
a spot
stomach,
that
kick
was
to the
supposed to
leg.
be in. Yeah, he was unprepared for that, or whatever. And I don't know, man. I lost a lot of admiration for Goldberg in that damn
Mm,
documentary.
hell no, not me. Bret screwed Bret.
No,
You out your damn
I
mind.
can't get on that train. I can't get on that train. No, man. Because Goldberg, if you can knock yourself out in a match more than once,
You
something
you
wrong with you,
you
brother.
tripping. Yeah, and they brought that up too. He was always hurt. I mean, that shit he did with that glass window that almost fucking killed him or whatever, that wasn't how that spot was supposed to go either. I think he took himself super serious and it got to a point where it became a problem. And they started just taking, to me, the way it came off, well, we just gonna take matters in our own hands.
What did you guys think about the Vince Russo episode when they first brought Vince Russo in?
I hated Vince Russo almost from day one. That
Immediately.
That dude is delusional and incapable of taking accountability.
he stated in the documentary that he thought he was better than 80% of the roster.
Yep.
I
That's
was
why he kept
like,
putting himself
what
out there.
the fuck?
He
Like
was so damn annoying.
but yeah, I was finna say his persona in the show was just stupid. He comes out in these fucking props when he was in that cage match with that damn football uniform on and shit, and he was like he got concussed. That's because you ain't even supposed to be out there. But what really resonates with me a lot of times about Vince Russo now, whatever. Every time you hear him talk, well, it's just a TV show. It's just I'm just doing this for ratings. It's not real, bro. Blah blah blah. Dude, like I mean, I don't get why people even ask him to speak anymore. It's crazy to me that you gonna put somebody on what I mean. I think WCW is as just as much of a part of I guess our generation's wrestling culture than WWF Attitude Era was. And you put this idiot on television who was in both, situations. And it's like, oh, like I never, it's not real. It's not, blah blah blah. It's just wrestling. Like who cares? That shit that runs me hot. I can't stand his motherfucking ass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think everything started going downhill when like to me, Vince Russo is one of the big reasons that they ain't around
Nah,
no more.
nah, but
I,
see, and I'm mad that they didn't touch on this in the documentary. What started their downfall and demise was when Eric Bischoff started trying to they got so big, so fast, and stays consistently number one. He thought I can put WWF out of business. That was a thing. That was a thing. They've talked about that in the past where he in his mind, I can beat Vince. I can put WWF out of business. That's what his once they started that thinking in every wrestling promotion since then, TNA or whatever, AEW, anytime you get some running momentum and you start trying to put WWF or E out of business, whatever you want to use out of business, that's when you start fucking up. Tell me I'm lying.
No, that is
no
correct.
lies detected.
Well, that and bringing in Hulk Hogan, TNA brought in Hulk Hogan, and they end
Mm-hmm.
up gone.
They brought in
Well,
Bischoff too, but they basically were getting a payday. That's been well documented. Like they tried to take they tried to take old WCW principles. Like Main Event Mafia was basically just a play on the NWO. You know,
Yeah.
Bischoff or Hogan being in charge or whatever, and all the extra shit that came with that during that time. That was the same thing as what the fuck was happening on WCW TV. They just Eric Bischoff been trading on one idea for almost 30 years. Monday night WCW Monday Night Nitro and the NWO. That's his claim to fame. Name something else he's done. He was great as a character in during the ruthless aggression era, but outside of that, what else has he done? Did he make anything or anybody else?
But look, he didn't need to do anything. Those things you just mentioned off were really huge things. Like he alone beat WWF or WWE or whatever in the ratings. Russo didn't do that. By the time Russo got in there, that shit was slumping. So
What
so
did
so
y'all
yeah,
think
it,
about?
it, it, it was Eric Bischoff that made Nitro, which beat WWE. It was Eric Bischoff who made NWO, which brought the ratings up. Eric Bischoff did his thing. I ain't even gonna hold you. And they said the same thing in the documentary. They was like Eric Bischoff did his
He
thing. It
did.
ain't his fault.
He did. No, it is his fault because after a while, okay, we need to do something different that isn't the NWO. He didn't have any ideas. We need to push somebody else that isn't Hulk Hogan or Kevin Nash. Uh, Kevin Sullivan made Goldberg. We can't even get at the Eric Bischoff. That was a Kevin Sullivan idea.
but that was the problem with Eric Bischoff. He was solely, you know, under Hogan in a way because Hogan made the decision. If Hogan didn't want to do something, Bischoff would be like, okay, well, we'll figure out something else to do.
He
And
had
that was a problem.
creative control. It was nothing he can say.
Right.
Yeah, but even on guys that didn't have that, even like he there was a part in the documentary where he said he was so overwhelmed and he wasn't really, and he said this on several an occasion. He wasn't real familiar with booking, and Kevin Nash came to him and said, "Hey, let me help you with this," and he gave it to him. And that's
Hmm.
what I'm saying. You got two ideas that really took off, and you put a rocket ship on your back. But then once you ran out of fuel and you need to come up with something else, he couldn't do that. He couldn't
Yeah.
make anybody else. You telling me you had a roster with a Booker T, a Chris Jericho, a Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, you don't get credit for Goldberg, so I'm not even gonna give him. I'm not gonna give you him. You
But he
had
does
all of
get
these.
credit for the cruiserweight division. He remember he
No,
started the cruiserweight
he
division.
does. I give I 100%. I do. I give him credit for that at least or whatever. But he said that was just kind of like to when he came up with that idea, that was to give people. He looked at that as like, oh, technical fans or fans of that style of wrestling. That's something for them. And then we have the main stuff that's like the storyline and all of this stuff or whatever that people come to see. But this is for like your purists or whatever. That's why he did that. It wasn't so much that he saw, oh, let's take these guys, throw them in a division, and have them go out there. He kind of treated it like, oh, this is for a fan or a viewer that is hey, I want actual wrestling too, and not just all of this extra shit that came with the NWO.
Mm.
Well, one thing that was said in the documentary that kind of helps Eric Bischoff's case as far as making new talent. Booker T was saying that the top guys didn't even want to give nothing up. They didn't want to give their spot up. So that was a huge problem.
But that's because there was a lack of leadership. That is their biggest problem, and I think that came out in the documentary too. They stated that if you were in WWF, you knew it started and stopped with Vince McMahon. Yeah, you had Shawn Michaels. Yeah, you had Hogan at one point in time, Stone Cold, Bret Hart. But if Vince said yes, it was yes. If Vince said no, we're not doing that, we didn't do that. They never had that there. Never. They never had it. People were running amok there. You know, whether it was the shoot promos that were being cut, or the creative control, or guys not. The dudes weren't even working a full schedule there. You had guaranteed contracts.
Yeah, they did.
So I mean, which and that was another shock. They actually did a forensic investigation on him because that Turner alleged that he was giving these guys large quantities of money to get a kickback. And he said that's when he kind of stopped giving a fuck. It was like once they came to him and told him, "Hey, we did an investigation on you. We didn't find anything, but we thought you should know." He's like, "I just stopped caring at that point. It's like, fuck it. It is what it is. I'm done."
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
to me, their biggest problem is there was no real management there. Nobody listened to anybody at that fucking place at all. You
Yeah.
did what you wanted when you wanted, and that was it. I mean, the Scott Steiner promo on Ric Flair was a prime example of that. That wasn't even what he was supposed to be doing.
Hold on now. We ain't gonna be talking about no Scott Steiner now. Though. We ain't gonna talk about the big bad booty daddy like that. Hold on.
I ain't
You
talking
know
about
what
him.
I mean?
I'm just saying like that promo is famous or whatever because he wasn't like nobody knew what the fuck was going on.
Look, my man got freaks 9 days out of the week. All right.
Okay.
You
I
know
mean,
what
he got
I'm saying?
his ass whooped by the five-time WCW champion plenty of times too.
A couple people did. That's Booker T.
But yeah, now to go back to your initial point, like Russo. Now, the one thing I will give, and I don't even know if I can bring myself to fucking say this. Russo did start saying it's time to stop using the same people. Let's give these other people a chance. And that's where you got a Booker T as champion. That's where you started seeing a Jeff Jarrett and stuff. The belt, a DDP got a title run and shit. I would. I can't get that shit to Eric Bischoff. I don't think Eric Bischoff would even knew who the fuck Booker T was until had it not been for Vince Russo.
Yeah,
I
but also because of Vince Russo, we had to see David Arquette be champion.
That was a big thing in the show, and supposedly that wasn't just a Russo idea. They claim there's a lot of hands involved in that. There's a Bischoff, there's a Tony Schiavone, apparently. Like, I mean, I never heard the side of the story DDP told where they said, "Hey, we're gonna put the belt on him tonight." And he's like, "No, we're not doing that." And he said Bischoff was like, "Yeah," in the documentary, "Yes, we are. Well, he's gonna be champion." And then he
Yeah.
felt guilty after he got it. After he asked Booker T, "Hey, how many times have you won?" And she said, I've never won it." And that's when he's like, "Yeah, I don't want this. I'm gonna give it back." That was one of it. To me, it was probably five moments in WCW history that to me that was your death march. David
But
Arquette.
honestly, I'm not gonna lie. That whole little segment with David Arquette being champion and whatnot, it was actually entertaining. I remember seeing it. That's one thing I can remember
It
seeing.
was
That whole
stupid
thing was
though,
entertaining. It was not well. It was stupid to make him champion, but that whole little segment, them 2 episodes or whatever,
man.
it
That
was pretty good.
that that and him giving a title back, the fucking finger poke of doom,
That was stupid.
uh, the goddamn Vince Russo, uh, the Bash at the Beach 2000 incident, and probably um Starcade or whatever, not Starcade. I think it was Halloween Havoc when it just went off the air or whatever during the main event. Them were like the biggest moments to me where I was like, yeah, yeah, this company in the toilet. Like it's done. I don't really understand what the thinking was behind that or whatever. I know they were trying to market a movie and stuff, but I feel like that could have been done in a better way. Like what they did with DDP and Karl Malone, maybe they should have done something like that with David Arquette.
Yeah, yeah.
And for
Hey,
him to walk out and give it back, it's like, ugh, I don't know.
well, how do you guys feel about Vince McMahon buying that company for $4 million when Eric Bischoff offered him like, I don't know, like 60 something? Was it? I think it was 60 something million, 75 million.
It was like $65 million is what he had gathered up with some investors or whatever. I don't know, man. When they got to that point in the documentary where it had to be an inside job, that don't sound far fetched. Why the fuck would you turn down $65 million? Oh well, at least this is how it was explained. They wanted it completely gone. If Eric Bischoff and his group came up with 65 million, they wanted the television that went with it, and they didn't want it on television for Turner anymore. They wanted it completely out of there, so they sold.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, for 4 million though,
They didn't think much of it. To them, it was bullshit. So if you don't want something, you sell it cheap. Hey, I'm just trying to get rid of this. Just give me something, and we'll call it a day.
Yeah, but that's basically what they were doing. They were trying to get rid of it really quick because who was it? Brad Siegel had a friend at WWE,
yeah.
Yeah, I
and
forgot
they
that
just
guy's name.
those
He's in
two
there for
right
like for an
there.
episode.
Yeah, those two conspired and got the deal done damn near overnight.
But you let them tell it now. They was like, no, we didn't. I didn't know
But
he was
they,
going to be
Man,
there.
yeah, and they have smiles on their faces while they're doing it.
it's so much bullshit behind the sale of that company and how it went down. Like I feel there was something underhanded done, but they claimed the guy that was running I think it was AOL Time Warner at the time, like he was a big exec. He
Yeah.
didn't want anything to do with wrestling. He didn't want to see it, didn't want to talk about it. He told them just get rid of it. I don't care what you do, but it needs to be
Hmm.
gone. And that included them being on television. They felt like they could do something else with the primetime spot.
And they
And
ain't really do nothing
that
with it.
4 million. Yeah, you sold that company for nickels on the dollar, honestly.
Hmm.
So how y'all feel
Yeah.
about The Rock being in the damn documentary?
I don't know why he was there.
I mean, well, he was there because it's his money. His company or his production company funded the documentary. But I mean, why
But
were you on it?
exactly, bro. It seemed like a P Diddy thing. He dancing all in the video, all on the microphone, all in the. You know what I'm saying? Like Suge Knight said, bro. The Rock was just like a P Diddy, bro. He all over the place. Just because he
It,
produced it, don't mean he had to be in the shit, bro. He
it's,
don't know nothing
some
about
of
no
his,
WCW.
well, he was like, "Oh, I was watching it. If I wasn't out wrestling, trying to see some of the things we could do." And no, you wasn't. They didn't even like. I do. He just.
At
I
that
don't
time, he
know.
didn't need nothing from them. He was already being
No.
booked to the sky.
Exactly. I don't know what the hell. Then he was like that after they got sold, he was looking at all the people that he could potentially do something with, and he went to. I think he just was there because they couldn't tell him no, but you had no business in that documentary at
Though
all.
the Rock did do a lot with a lot of the WCW people that came in. He did do something with Goldberg, and he did something with
Booker T.
yeah, Booker. He did a lot with Booker T. You know,
But
Triple
does
H
that
too.
mean he's
Triple H
supposed to
did
be
a
in the
lot with him.
documentary?
No, he should not
No,
have
no,
been in
they
the
didn't.
documentary.
No, Triple H did a lot of burying, is what you mean, because ain't he ain't take a L to none of them motherfuckers he faced, and he basically fucked over Booker T in
Wait,
WrestleMania 19.
nah,
That was a disgrace.
I thought Big Papa Pump beat him.
Fuck no, they had
Bro,
that one match at I think SummerSlam, and that was it. They never worked together again. That's why Scott Steiner can't stand him.
bro, they had major heat.
Nah,
I remember.
Yeah.
he never he beat Big Papa Pump. He beat Booker T. Like he didn't take a L to anybody. I think from
Oh wait,
WCW.
he lost to Goldberg. He did lose to Goldberg.
I don't know
Oh
what the
yeah,
fuck.
right around 2003. Yeah,
I think he was
That
in the Evolution at the time or something. I
yeah,
can't
he
remember,
that's
but I know
was.
he
about
lost to Goldberg.
that's about the only person that they actually have given serious credence to, or whatnot. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just because Vince was in love with how he looked and what he saw him be in '99 and shit like that, or '98, whatever year it was, 2000. But like that's the only person that's ever really gotten. I mean, Benoit and Guerrero were champions, but I think that was a Paul Heyman thing. I don't think
Yeah,
Vince would have ever done no shit like that.
Mm.
And what they did to Booker T with Triple H was fucking criminal. Like that, they made him look fucking stupid.
yeah, that was fucked up. It's
Now, if
one
you
thing
want
to
to be
beat them
mad about
clean.
something, you should be mad about that. But I understand he still worked there and he can't say how he feels. But
Yeah,
yeah,
because
that
because
they
because
they
Triple H said some racist shit during his promo, talking about some was calling him boy and told him he need to be shucking and jiving
guys
and
like
dancing.
him and
Yeah,
shit. Yeah,
nappy
they were pushing the
head.
envelope on that shit. And not just that, but the way that finish to that match was he pedigreed that motherfucker and took forever to cover him. It
Yeah,
just made him look like a damn fool.
Yeah, he
and that was
did.
done on purpose.
Nah, but and they brought that up too. That Booker T did, I think, in particular. Like a lot, they brought a lot of them dudes over just to rub it in. Like what they did to DDP was criminal. I mean, that he had that little segment where they made him a stalker with the
Yeah, with
Undertaker's
the
wife.
Undertaker. Yeah,
Hmm.
Yeah, and that, like you never saw him again after that. They fucked over him. They
that
fucked
was
over
actually
Big
a good
Papa Pump.
segment though.
It
It was
Yeah,
was.
but
pretty
that
good.
bro, but DDP was a big time player in WCW. He was one of the better
Mm.
people on that fucking roster. They did not use him like that.
Yeah, I think after the Undertaker thing, they put him with Christian and they had him mentoring. Remember, Christian was doing that big ass smile or whatever.
Yeah,
The hell. Yeah, they put him with Christian, and I think after that he was out of there.
They
yeah,
fucked over Sting. I mean, shit, like, and by the time he did come, it was so late in the game. I don't even think anybody would have. It wouldn't have been the same as if he had came when they first shut down in 2001. Like I say, I mean, you seen what happened to Saturn after the Radicals. Dean Malenko never got used after the Radicals. Most of the people that you can call that came from over there, they fucked over him big time. Like there was no chance none of them guys were gonna get over. Chris Jericho got off the ship before it
Hmm.
went out, and so that's the only reason he probably, he left way before.
even he had to work hard. I mean, Booker T told
Yeah,
stories about when he first came over. He couldn't even dress in the WWE locker room where everybody else. It wasn't until Undertaker told him to come to the locker room that he was allowed in.
Mm-hmm.
So they treated WCW guys like like freaking rookies, even though they had proven themselves in another promotion. They were like, "No, you from over there.
but they
This is
do that
big
to a
time."
lot of people that come
Yeah,
over or whatever. Yeah, I think who was it? God dang it, I just lost my train of thought. Somebody came over, I think from TNA, and they fucked over them or whatever. And they, if you notice, they'll send most of those guys, like big name people from other places, like Shinsuke Nakamura from straight out of New Japan, went straight to NXT without fail.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, go to Samoa Joe, go to NXT. Yeah, everybody knew who Samoa Joe was. What the fuck he doing in NXT?
Yeah, the
right.
only person that I can remember coming over that didn't have to go to NXT was AJ Styles. AJ
Hmm.
Styles came straight in at that Royal Rumble, and the
Yep.
dude's been beast since then. But I mean, AJ Styles had a reputation to where he had won championships
Yeah,
all over the world. They
all
couldn't
over.
really
Right.
they couldn't really put him in no NXT. But
CM Punk had
I
to
felt the
work at
same way
NXT.
about what's the name.
Well, CM Punk was on OVW at first, I think, and then they sent him to ECW, and then he got to the main roster.
That
Yeah.
was understandable why they sent him to OVW because they want him to get used to working on TV and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
even then, that was a Paul Heyman decision too for him to even get the opportunity
Yeah,
because
the
they
little
didn't want to
guys.
give him that. Yeah,
So, I mean, I thought the interesting part was they asked them at the very end, like, who really killed WCW, and man, it was a lot of finger pointing going on.
it was finger pointing, mud slinging, throwing under the bus.
Yeah, but a lot of them said Turner, and I feel the same way. Like the talent brought it down.
Not
But
Ted Turner, but you mean like
no,
Turner,
I'm
Turner
talking about
executives and shit.
yeah, the Turner
Okay.
broadcast team. They are the ones who actually killed it. They sold it. We don't want it anymore. They killed it. Now it was brought down by the talent, and it could have kept going. Probably come back up at some point. But it was the Turner people that killed it.
I'm gonna have to say, I gotta say Bischoff, Russo, and Turner. I think it's a little bit of everything. Honestly, it really it you got one big pie, and you can section it out how you want. But like I say, Bischoff and Russo were a problem. Hogan was a problem. Turner execs and AOL Time Warner was a fucking problem.
Yeah,
Goddamn,
but those were just problems. You can't say that they killed it.
they
Like
all.
to where it wasn't on TV no more,
I
because they
think
could have still
Russo.
been on TV by now.
Nah, man, Russo's one of however long he was there. He did. Excuse me. He did massive damage.
Hmm.
Massive damage. I mean, that stupid ass spot they showed with the blood thing where Kevin Nash was standing there
Kevin
and they couldn't
Nash,
even get the
yeah.
spot
Yeah,
right.
I was
Like
just
shit
looking
like
at
that
it.
was fucking stupid, man. I mean, Vince Russo. I think Vince Russo won the World Heavyweight Championship. Why?
he did.
Yeah, he did.
That was an ego boost for himself, but it
Right?
didn't
Like
do shit for him.
that's fucking nuts. Nah, he did some serious damage to that fucking show. That promo he cut on Hogan at Bash at the Beach, the fucking the shit between him and Bischoff behind the scenes, like they both were sitting there thinking one worked for the other or whatever the case may be. Bischoff thought he was brought back because they fired him and they brought in Russo, and even the guy that even how Russo got hired was fucking crazy. Oh, this is the best decision we ever made. That was in the documentary.
Yeah, crazy. But I agree
Nah,
with both of you guys as far as who killed WCW. I do feel like it was multiple people who had a hand in it. The talent, I mean, not the talent, but Bischoff, Russo, Nash, Hogan, they definitely brought it down. And I just feel like the execs at Turner just came and finished it off, basically.
Yeah.
And Vince McMahon just buried it in a tomb for it to never come back again.
Yeah, because honestly, I feel if they had never got taken off TV, they could have still been going till this day. I mean, look at
Yeah.
TNA. They're still going as Impact.
Yeah,
Or I
but
think TNA is back now, but I mean they could have still been going on with different management, whatever
but the
else the case.
reason the reason that Impact and shit lasted as long as it did, even with the bad management and shit, they never tried to go head to head with WWE. That was the
At
biggest
one
thing.
point
You
they
had
did. They tried to do Mondays.
Yeah.
yeah, and you
Oh
see
yeah.
what the fuck happened too. That
Yeah.
shit didn't work, and that's the problem. If WCW had been on Tuesday nights or Thursday night, even the other problem was Thunder. That came up. Eric Bischoff didn't even want to do Thunder.
Yeah.
But going head to head with them on Monday nights, that shit ain't even work now. AEW didn't try to go head to head with them on the same nights that they on. That shit does not work well. You need to be an alternative, not competition. Now, if you a big enough alternative, well, you could be competition indirectly, but somebody brought this up in the documentary. It just becomes too fucking hard to watch two shows at the same time. How many times did y'all start watching WCW and flip the channel over to WWE?
Every commercial break.
Every time.
Right.
But
So,
you know, so something that helped later on was that picture in picture came out to where you can put the little WCW up in the little corner and watch WWE in the
Mm-hmm.
background.
Yep.
but
That
for
I
was a
used to do
everybody
that
that
too.
lifesaver.
for everybody that didn't have that feature, you had to pick one or the other. I, me personally, had Nitro been on Tuesday nights, well, I'm watching Raw on Mondays. WWF can have that. They got Raw on Mondays. We got Nitro on Tuesdays. It's still the same shit.
Yeah, people just want to be a monopoly sometimes, I guess.
Hey,
They
wait,
just
hold on. You didn't have picture in picture, Sherrod,
No, I had to hit the recall button.
with your broke ass.
nah.
I was 7. What the fuck that got to do with anything?
You heard what I said.
You watch what the fuck you had. Like I had to hit that recall button.
I bet your shit was in black and white too.
No, it wasn't, motherfucker.
How did
It,
he had the TV where you had to turn the knob?
I had cable, but we had
Oh man,
one of them
he
old
had
school
cable
deals.
from next door.
Don't worry about that. I won't confirm or deny. But nah, man, yeah, and then they were doing that shit. Another thing that did them in, he wants to do this shit where he will tell you what the fuck, and that was a big downfall. Oh, Mick Foley's gonna win the title. Oh, okay, well, shit, let me flip over. Like that came up in there. I mean, they just did stupid shit. Hogan and they tried to. They actually I believe, actually tried to make sense of why they put Hogan and Goldberg on Monday night television in the Superdome that they fill with 40,000 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't make
That
sense of that.
no, and they try to, but I he oh well Hogan said tonight's the night. Like, dude, I mean, what the hell? I hell, Hulk Hogan by himself is to me is a culprit. You got to put him in there. How much of this shit revolved around him?
Even with
Yeah.
the finger poke of doom, like when Jeff Jarrett did it and he got all pissed off, like this is why the company's in the damn shape it's in. You still covered him and took the belt. You could have
Oh
just got
hell
out the ring
yeah!
and walked out. You like, no, I'm still take the belt.
And that's what pissed me off. Like, how is it bad when you do it with Jeff Jarrett, but it was cool when you did it with Kevin Nash?
Right. And
Like,
Kevin
come
Nash
on,
was
bro.
over.
Yeah, and he
People
just fell.
wanted him to win.
He tapped him and fell on out. But when Jeff Jarrett do it, oh, this damn company. Oh, shut your goofy ass up.
Well, I think when they did it with Nash, it was trying to be like and that was another thing too. Like they spent too much time trying to have that gotcha moment. After Hogan became the third man, from then on, WCW's whole premise was they tried to hit you with a got you moment. Like it got so bad that, and I've heard this from other WCW stars on like different wrestling interviews and podcasts. Bischoff almost was trying to work the talent, like, oh, gotcha, like that. you can't have the moments all the time. When you get them, they're special. And there's only been so many moments in wrestling history that I can remember where you got the audience. Everybody was like, "What? You didn't see that shit coming." They wanted that all the time. You can't have that. So the finger poke of doom with Nash and Hogan, that wasn't a big deal then because they were trying to work people. But the shit with Jarrett, I don't even know why Jeff Jarrett agreed to do that shit. I really don't. I wish I did, but that's a completely different scenario.
Well, the thing with Jared didn't have a free range clause where he can do what he wanted. He had to. He ain't had no choice.
Yeah,
They
he
told him to
really
do it.
didn't
He had
want
to do
to.
it.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
didn't
but
really want
he
to.
definitely didn't want to come out there. He even went on record saying he didn't want to do that.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, he did not
But
want to do that.
give him props for putting over Booker T to win the title. I mean, he went back out there and put him over.
Hmm.
And I think that's what Booker T so mad about is like they made judgment because he say he knew 2 or 3 days in advance he was supposed to be champion, and then like they want to pull the rug out from under him. Or what I think that was Sting's thing too during that Starcade match. Like you go in here to talk about this shit, and you think, hey, they've been working this whole program for over a year. I know I'm going to be champion. Blah blah blah. You walk in this room, and all of a sudden, you got a dude hemming and hawing and making excuses, and you like, well, fuck this. I just don't give a shit. And he walked out.
Hmm. But one
Mm.
thing I wasn't surprised to hear was the racism there, because Booker T said in that documentary as well that he didn't think he was ever going to be champion, and they asked him why, and he said simply because I was black. He
Yeah.
was I didn't think I was going to touch the belt. He was
I,
like
I
black people didn't touch the belt in that company.
but we've heard that in WWE too. That seems to be some
That seems to be wrestling
like an
wide.
underlying commentary in the
Yeah.
wrestling business. That's what I was going to say. Hey, that seems to be an underlying commentary because honestly, before Booker T, the only other guy they ever had to be world champion was Ron Simmons,
Yeah.
aka Farouk.
I
But
think he became champion. What, NWA?
nah, it was WCW, but it was back
Was
in
it?
like '91 or something
Like
like that.
91, 92.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was early '90s, like, and it was a big deal but shit, I mean, after him, I don't remember anybody else being that until Booker T got it. It's same thing with WWE. I mean, you had, man, I'm really about to have to open the Rolodex here. They
Ahmed
had,
Johnson was the first black singles champion and the first black
and that's
intercontinental
ridiculous because
champion.
that was like '95, '96, wasn't it?
96, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
no,
was the
that,
first
that, that
one.
yeah, yeah. I mean, now world champion, I think The Rock might have been the first one, maybe. And then now they've
First
gotten better.
black WWE champion, yeah,
Yeah,
The Rock.
Hell
they've
no,
gotten.
he ain't
Look,
black.
I knew Jacory was gonna say. I knew Jacory
There
was
we
Hell
gonna say.
go.
no, he don't
That
claim his
man,
black side, man.
his daddy's soul man Rocky Johnson. How you gonna tell him
But
he ain't black?
even his daddy had a perm. He ain't want to be black.
Man, listen, leave that man alone. But nah, they've gotten better over the last, I would say, decade. But you had The Rock, you had Mark Henry, you had this that I'm not calling his name, but
You better
you had
say his name, Kofi Kingston.
him. I don't give a fuck. Fucking ridiculous. But that honestly, it's only been what, three of them. Now the
You
women's
had Big
division.
E.
Oh yeah. That's right. That's right. I forgot about him.
Bobby
Um,
Lashley got it.
Bobby
Bobby
Lashley, yeah,
Lashley. Yeah, but I mean that's recent history. You
Yeah.
you
yeah.
talking what, the last 5, 6, 7 years,
Yeah, and I
roughly?
feel the only reason they started doing that is because people start catching on that they
Yeah,
wasn't
they've gotten
allowing
a
any
lot
black
more
champions.
progressive, but yeah, no, before then, man, I mean, but WCW, two. That's all I can remember, and this is going back to like the '80s when it was JCP, NW. I don't know of anybody else. Now, I mean, if you listening in the audience or whatever, and we miss somebody, by all means, post it in the comments. But Ron Simmons is the only name I knew before Booker T's. I can't think of nobody else.
I never thought about it until now.
Hmm?
Yeah, no, I don't. But I'm like Jacory. That seems to be a big problem in wrestling. Period. I
Right.
mean, AEW just had Swerve Strickland, but in their first 5 years, you Moxley, Jericho, MJF, CM
And look,
Punk.
they aren't even pushing Swerve the way they was pushing them. This dude champion, and he's starting the show off. And I'm like,
That's
oh
what
my
I'm
god,
saying,
he
bro.
ain't
Like
been in not one main event. What's going on?
it's
They got him
ridiculous.
champion as the to so they can also say, well, we let black people be champion, but you ain't did shit with him. You was pushing the hell out of Moxley, the hell out of MJF.
Now Booker T, I will say Booker T was dominating the television title division during that time or whatever, but like they ain't have no main event players. And even after Booker T got the title, the only he would lose that bitch as fast as he wanted or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's where that whole 5-time WCW championship came from. He didn't have no
Mm-hmm.
long runs with them things. That he'll win it and then it's something to happen. He'll win it, then something to happen. But I mean, even after he got the WWF, I think The Rock won it, but I guess it's okay in that situation. But nah, it could have been something to that. And maybe he didn't want to drop it to him, given his alleged history. Maybe he didn't want to drop it to him for that reason. Who knows?
Hogan didn't want to drop shit to anybody.
That is correct.
Well, I mean, he at least he didn't Bret Hart him.
Bret
Shit.
Hart him.
Yeah, in WrestleMania 9. So Bret Hart lost to Yokozuna, and he lost on a I think Fuji
Interference.
threw the salt in his eyes. Yeah,
Yeah.
and fucking Hogan brings his ass out there, hadn't been on in WrestleMania at all. Fucking starts to like tells him that he cheated, and then takes and starts the match with Yokozuna, beats him in like 2 minutes or some shit like that, and ends up being champion at the end of WrestleMania 9. It's a famous swerve,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah,
I
I
think
remember.
that was creative control too.
Yeah, that was some bullshit, especially with that
It
weak ass leg
man,
drop.
what's the name? He just a piece of shit, boy. The
He
longer,
is.
the long older you get, the most stuff that comes out from people, you just be like, what the fuck? Like, I know guys do whatever they have to do to stay on top. Like Stone Cold was sensitive about who he wrestled and when and where and how and why. He was he wanted he knew he had to work his ass off to get to that point, so he wasn't finna just do no anything or give
Mm-hmm.
up to know anybody. That makes sense. Most top guys are like that. But this shit that you hear about Hogan and all the times that people should have gotten over or went over or should have been champion, and it's like, oh yeah, no, 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 I don't know about that. He'll get you to the night of or an hour or 30 minutes before and be like, yeah, I don't think that's gonna work.
Bro, did y'all hear Hulk Hogan trying to run for president, cuz,
Oh
or he
god,
said that he wanted to run for president?
No, I've
he
never
better
heard of
sit
that.
his ass down somewhere.
You ain't hear
He just
that?
look for he just look for attention at this point. I thought that was a joke.
Yeah.
I,
Look, as someone has said, it was like, bro, you can't run from president. You can't run for president. You racist. And then
Exactly.
Val Venus took up for him, talking about he's not racist, and there's a bunch of people that say they worked with him and said he's not. Man, I don't give a damn what them people say. Half the people that saying that Hulk Hogan
but you
wasn't
know
racist,
what?
they were racist.
Exactly.
Here's something else to think about to this Booker T thing. Y'all do remember that there was a segment he did with when he was in the Harlem Heat and how he hit Hulk Hogan with that N word on national television, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could have
Infamous
something to do
moment.
with it too. Yeah,
Yeah.
it could. Yeah, that could have something to do with it too.
Look, I guess Hulk Hogan think Booker T gave him the N word card. He
Yeah.
called me
I don't
one,
know.
so it's okay for me to say it.
He
I
flipped
mean,
out when he found out his daughter was
th-
taking one.
listen,
Yeah, man.
this is all allegedly. We
Nah,
not getting
that's
Well,
into.
all
ain't
all
no
true.
alleged. It got video. I mean, audio.
Yeah, but he'll sue your ass in a minute.
I beat his ass.
Hit him in
No,
that bad knee.
You
yeah,
feel
man,
me?
boy.
He a piece of shit, bro. Just especially for what he did to the Undertaker
What did he do to the
early in the Undertaker's
Undertaker?
career. Early in
Yeah.
Undertaker's career, he gave Hogan the tombstone. He told Hogan he was gonna protect him because
Oh,
Hogan was
I
nervous
heard
about
this
taking it.
story, and he
Yeah.
said he
My
dropped him
neck,
on his
brother.
neck or something like
Yeah,
that.
that.
Yeah, and he never even touched him. He said he went back and watched the match back, and he never even dropped him. Yeah, man, that Shawn Michaels got his ass good too. Where he tried
Oh,
to
that was
fuck over
great.
Shawn Michaels, yeah, and he was like, oh, okay, and he oversold and shit. They never wrestled again. I think.
Nope, not after that.
The boy say, "Oh, my neck, brother, my neck."
I
Yeah.
think he got
Shit.
Undertaker in trouble, didn't he?
No, the Undertaker didn't get into trouble.
Nah, I
It's
ain't getting
just
no
he
trouble.
tried to.
Because everybody had already seen that his head never touched. But
Yeah,
they had also said they knew Hulk Hogan was a whole ass monkey. So they was like, yeah, bro, his head never
exactly.
touched, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm overall, I think for me, I rated it like the documentaries. It was 4 episodes. Again, it's on Vice if you haven't seen it. I'm
Mm.
gonna rate it like a 7 out of 10. It wasn't. I was entertained. I found out a lot of different things that I didn't know, and so much has come out in the open now. It's been 20 some years ago, so now nobody has anything to hide. You're finding out information you never even knew. So because of that, to me it's not the same thing or whatever. I wish they would do one on ECW like this, where people, can finally come out and say, yeah, I still feel like it's a lot we didn't know about that.
Apparently, they had something come out about the ECW One Night Stand. They had a little documentary come out. I think right
What the
before
hell is
the
there to say
whole.
about ECW One Night Stand? It was ran by WWE.
Yeah, but that first one and I think that second one they talked about it.
That's still the greatest
Yeah,
wrestling documentary of all time. Rise and Fall of ECW, in my opinion. I died on my head to find that.
New Jack.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, that
but me, I rate it. I rated I don't know, maybe a 4 out of 10, just because most of the stuff they put
that's
on there I
low.
already knew. Yeah,
That's low.
yeah, it should be low because most of the stuff they put on there was already in other documentaries. To me, the only thing I didn't know was the last piece about with the whole stuff with Turner and not Turner broadcast and all them, not wanting and Vince buying it for 4 million. I thought he bought it for way more than that, but I
No,
didn't
it
know
was
that
fair. I
stuff.
knew it
That
was
last
pennies on the
episode.
dollar.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
know that last episode, but the rest of that, like the episode 1, 2, and 3, I knew all that shit.
It was a pretty good watch for me. So yeah, all in all, it was a pretty good watch. I was
Uh,
satisfied with it.
what would you give it?
Probably like a. eh, I give it about a 7.5. Yeah.
You lying?
No, because I learned a lot of stuff that I had. Because I
Nah, cause
watched
it,
Fall WCW, so I learned some stuff. I like the mud slinging they had and the point of view from the
Well,
wrestlers who were actually
now
there. You
ain't
didn't just
nobody got
have
nothing
people
to
talking
hide.
about.
During Rise and Fall of WCW, a lot of them dudes were still working for WWF.
Yeah, and
A
they
lot of
didn't
them
want to
dudes were
talk.
still, yeah, nobody wanted to say nothing. But this time around, man, dudes were letting it go. A lot of these dudes are retired or they no longer work there or whatever the case may be. Like, ain't no sense in, there's no way you could have paid him in Rise and Fall of WCW to say he was better than 80% of the roster because somebody probably would have beat the shit out of him. Not that that can't happen today, but the likelihood is very slight.
Yeah, you're right.
So
that
yeah,
is
I
correct.
I don't think it's the same thing as before, but I definitely get where you're coming from. A lot of that information is regurgitated, but how much story is there to tell on WCW? The shelf life is relatively small. So I mean, when we think WCW, we talking, 96 on, yeah, 96
Mm.
oh 01. I don't think anybody knew anything about it before then. Not in our age group.
Yeah,
This
but
one
it, it,
definitely
it it
checked all the
had been
boxes.
around. It
Yeah.
had been around a long time before the whole Eric Bischoff saga. Because I think before then it was WCCW, wasn't it? like
Nah,
world class championship
it was
wrestling.
still WCW. Nah, it was still WCW. It just was ran very differently. Like before, Eric Bischoff, like I say, you had Kip Fry, Jim Herd. I think before Jim Herd, there might have been somebody else, but they had different people running WCW. Bill Watts ran it for a little bit or whatever. This is like the late '80s, early '90s, and then finally
Mm.
Bischoff like happened that he got to be the luckiest motherfucker alive. This dude went from being a announcer to the main head of WCW, and he fell on luck. It was like, okay, let's run a primetime show, and then he got the NWO angle, and it took off. And I mean, he for at least a couple years, he was the best mind in wrestling, even to a point better than Vince. I do give him credit for that, but that's what he's traded on for the last 20 years. It's not like they brought him back in 2019 to do creative for WWE, and that shit didn't last no time.
Yeah.
He don't have any ideas. Like, name one idea Eric Bischoff has had since WCW or the NWO. You can't.
Yeah, it did have some good segments as GM. He had some good segments, especially with him versus Stephanie. That was all. That was
Yeah,
all
that was
good
pretty
stuff.
good. That was definitely pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, but that wasn't his idea. Somebody was writing that shit.
But regardless, it was good to see him. It was good to see
Yeah.
him there. He
Well,
did
no,
fit the part.
and yeah, he did his thing as a GM on Raw or whatever. That was a nice little send off for him or whatever. But again, if I say Eric Bischoff, do you even think about that, or you think about this WCW shit?
When you say the name Eric Bischoff,
Yeah.
I think about what he did in WCW.
Yeah,
Me
he's
too.
synonymous with that. That nobody. I mean, yeah, doing the Raw thing was fine or whatever, but he's always gonna be forever tied to that. And I think that was a telling phrase from Kevin Nash. There's nobody else in the history of wrestling that's been able to go head to head with Vince McMahon and actually win for a period of time.
Hmm.
You're never gonna be able to take that from him. But
Yep.
you know, I mean, it's unfortunate that he couldn't do anything past that.
Yeah. This is a nice way
Yep.
to put a bow on everything.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, so go ahead and send us home, Keaton.
Everybody go ahead and tap in with our social media. Y'all been doing great with subscribing. Shamar, how many we away from? Yeah, just
We
text it to us
need
with
186 more followers. I'm so subscribers. Shit, I'm
subscribers
thinking
to hit
my
that
social.
1K.
We need yeah, 186.
Hmm.
If you like our content, tell a friend, tell whoever. 186. And what really gets me is a lot of you guys have the viewership has picked up over the last month considerably. But
Yeah.
if we got everybody to press that subscribe button and listen, we'd be there.
Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely subscribe, follow us on all our social medias. And thank you for listening to another round of the Best Damn Wrestling Podcast.